Welcome to the video. This video we're going to be sharing with you on what's required to run professional looking live streams, online events, hybrid events, and even Zoom calls if you want to make them look much more professional, because over the last couple of years I think everyone's been forced to become more remote, and actually a lot of people are enjoying it, and now they know they need to make a full-time gig of their skills when it comes to running online. It's no longer really a webinar, because if it's all about attention, and if you're wanting to get the most attention, you've really got to stand out. And if online events become the norm, everyone's running webinars, everyone's running Zoom calls, so we want to stand out. So what we want to do in this video, I've brought Lorna along, who's going to introduce herself in a minute, but you all know anyway, and we're going to be talking about what gear to use, how to put it all together, what connects where, and how you can, by the end of this video, be up and running and have a really nice professional looking live stream and online events, hybrid events, whatever it is you choose to do. So Lorna, tell everyone about you.
Lorna Reeves at MyOhMy Events, and I've been running business events, workshops and conferences for quite a few years now, and obviously pre-pandemic that was all face-to-face, and now we're very much in the virtual space. 2020, everybody hit panic stations, the world shut down, and everybody moved online in this really out of necessity, and it was very quick and dirty. What can we do to get online? Everybody jumped to things like Zoom, hop on 24, whatever platforms are available instantly. And it really was a race. Those people that got in front of people online first were the ones that did really well, were the ones that kind of took the market and were the front runners. 2 years on, we've kind of come to this next phase. We need to now start leveling up. Audiences are expecting more. You know, they're working online day in, day out. They see you and me on a video call, a flat screen, day in, day out. That's now normal. So if you want to stand out in your market, if you want to capture attention, you need to start leveling up your skills. Couple that with hybrids, because online is not going to go away. Even when the virus is kind of integrated into society, people have now learned that I can sit at home in my pajamas. I don't have to do a 2-hour commute. I don't have to spend loads of money on travel, but I can still get really good value. I can still really connect with people. So how do I go about doing that? And if you're not part of the hybrid race, you're not going to succeed in the next few years to come. You need to have that hybrid offering. So we need to figure out a way to have someone in person, like yourself, delivering to a room with really good content, but how do you also translate that to people that are visiting online? And nobody likes those webinars where you turn up, where I compare it to like standing outside with your face pressed against the glass. You can't talk to the people inside, you're just watching it on TV. Now if you're going to do that, you might as well watch YouTube or Netflix.
Absolutely.
Get your content that way. Do it at 10 o'clock at night. But if you want to really capture people's attention, you really want them to take away what you're telling them and use it and remember it in the future, you need to be interactive, you need to be immersive. And that's where things like the technology we're going to show you today really come into their own. To be able to speak to the people in the room, even though you're 1,000 miles away, voice your opinion, ask a question, to have different shots, different angles, to really be able to see the slides that are being shared, all in real time. Then to have maybe ticker tapes running, things that you can do to get involved and get interactive while you're watching, really keeps people engaged. It stops that drop off, stops people disappearing before the end, makes people stay to the end of your session, and ultimately it says to your brand, this person, I know if I'm going to spend an hour with them, 2 hours with them, a whole day with them, I'm going to get loads and loads of good stuff, and you know, really. And
they enjoy it as well, right?
I know that when I turn up to Jason's stuff, I'm going to have an epic day.
A great time.
And
it's about start to finish, them going away thinking that was a great experience. You know, it's not really about. It's not necessarily the things that you look out for that make you enjoy the experience. So it's like I always use the example of going to your favourite coffee shop. You don't really know what makes it your favourite coffee shop. You might just think it's the coffee, but in actual fact, until you go to a coffee shop where the doors slamming and the windows are, letting in a draft, and the music's too loud, and the sofa's a bit uncomfortable, and the queues are a bit too long. It's all the tiny little things that you're not paying attention to, or subconsciously you are, but at the forefront of your mind you're not paying attention to. But it's those little things that make you go away thinking, that's why I love that.
Yeah.
So they're the small differences we're going to be showing with you on this, and how you can go from just bog standard Zoom calls, online events, to real professional, high production shows that are, one of the best things that I love about these are they're just instant YouTube video content quality, so there's no real editing. You can produce something live on the fly that then is essentially a real nice masterpiece for YouTube, or some evergreen content that's there forever.
Absolutely. Take time in the setting up means
Yep.
that you're not spending time afterwards. Once the event's done, it's done.
Yep.
It's all tied up in a nice bundle.
Absolutely. So some of the things we'll talk about just while we're sitting here is we're sitting here with a couple of cameras, and we are running all of this right now from something called a Stream Deck. And this is a piece of kit that's got a load of buttons set up to do various things. And just by pressing these is how you're going to see us switch to cameras. And we could do tickers and things like that. So you've seen my show ticker, which comes on when we run that. We can bring up images, we can bring up chat from other platforms and things like that. We can bring up cool little animations, and all of this stuff is, what I love about it is it's run from here. So this is just sitting in front of us on a desk here, and although this could look like someone's running the show, me and Lorna can just take turns to hit these buttons to really produce the show ourselves. So it brings it almost into a one-man or a two-man army to make it look like you've got team members running around doing this stuff for you. But in actual fact, you can actually make it very, very simple so that one person or yourself even can run the show. I'm going to talk about why we recommend that you do have a helping hand sometimes, because as the talent, it's your job to show up and do what you do best, and you don't really want to focus on clicking buttons too much, so we'll talk about that a bit later. But the kit we're using here, just so you know, lots of people ask about the cameras. We're using Sony A7R cameras. Okay, on my desk I've got two Sony A7S cameras, and those cameras are about 6 years old, and they're still as good today as they were when I bought them. They're still great quality. The lenses we're going to put in the description of this video on all these cameras. But essentially we're using 24 to 70mm G Master lenses on the A7Rs, and we're using a Distagon 1.4 35mm on the A7Ss, and that's across the board. We're using Shure microphones, so we've got the Shure SM7B microphones, which are industry standard. In fact, Thriller was recorded using this microphone. So if Michael Jackson can record, yeah, this very one, yeah. No, but this microphone's used by lots of studio singers and recording artists. But it's also very popular, become very popular for podcast hosts. You've probably seen these on any podcast show that you've been on. They're about 300 quid, but they are amazing quality microphones. The lighting we're using for the key light is an aperture dome light. It's the 300D. It's the big one. A lot of people think that a camera is going to give you the better quality image, but actually lighting plays a massive part in that. And we've got a big soft light here, as you can see in the clip here, and that removes any kind of wrinkles, shadows, and it just gives you a nice feel.
More lights.
Yeah, we need more lights. As we get older, you just need more. You need to turn the brightness up on that. So we're using that for lighting. And I think as our fill light, we've just got a little panel LED light here by Manfrotto, and we've also got a rim light which is giving us both kind of like a moonlight across our shoulder. You might not notice it, but if we turned it off you would notice it, and all it does is it pulls you out from the background a little bit and gives a little rim here, so you can see that her shoulder's really popping there from the background. If that light wasn't on, it would blend into that cushion that's also grey behind her. So that's a nice little feature. If you've got room for a rim light, then great. If not, it doesn't really matter.
Windows can work quite nicely if you angle your desk, and you've got to play around with this. If you're going to level up with anything, start with your camera your microphones and your lighting. You'll already sit above the top, you'll sit in the top 20% of people that are doing online stuff. You've got a better quality camera lighting, and you can play around with your desk, play around with your setup. I mean, I have, my setup is movable, so when I have a big event, I'll pull it all up, and I know yours is fixed. But I also have little bits of tape on the floor, so I know exactly where everything goes every time to get the best lighting, to get the best angle of the camera. I don't even need to faff around with, playing around with lenses, because it's already set. I know exactly where it needs to go every time.
I mean, if you've got the budget for multiple cameras, like I've got, we're going to show you a remote version of this entire setup at the end. But if you have got the budget to have multiple things, like with me, I like to have workplaces so that it's set and you don't have to move things, because part of it is not having to set up, right? That demotivates you to do it. So I try and, over time, I've invested in gear so I can just leave it there and then move to that station and do some recording there and so on. But obviously in the first, any camera, in fact this camera here, which is the Sony RX100 VII, this is a fantastic point and shoot camera, but it's also ridiculously good quality. It's 4K, it's just as good as what you're seeing on here. Obviously the lens isn't as good as the lens that we've got here, but it will still do a shallow depth of field and blur the background kind of thing, and it's a brilliant camera. And it also comes with a little tripod thing that you can set up as well and angle. So if you're on the fly, something like this, or even your camera phone, your smartphone, they're just incredible quality cameras now. Boom mics, I tend to use the Rode if you're going to put one on the top of a camera. The beautiful thing about this, we're using these mics here, and these are SLR mics that are going into a mixer, which I'm going to show you in a moment. But you can just take the feeds of the camera, HDMI, into the camera switcher, and then if you want to use a mic like this, then it will just take all of the audio down the camera into the switcher, and you can do it that way. So there's options available there. So anything else we need to show?
Probably not
here.
It was only to say, if you are doing a hybrid event and you haven't got all of this kit, and we'll show you the mobile kit that we use to stream, but the cameras and things you can hire for really good value. If you go to any hire company and say, these are the 2 cameras that I want, these are the microphones that I want, you can hire them on a day rate. Means you don't have to buy it all, but you get awesome quality for that particular event.
So if you're going to do an event, or do 4 events a year or 6 events a year, it'd be worth going to one of those suppliers and doing a deal with them so that you can hire, get a good rate, and then you can just make the most out of those cameras on the day. Right, so I think what we'll do now is we'll go over to the desk
and look at some production. What it looks like behind the scenes, some of the other cool things that you can do, like this, where we can bring on chats from external, YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, all of the kind of external things like that, and we can bring on chat and engage with members. And we'll show you guys how we do things like the tickers and how we program all this stuff as well. So let's go over to the desk. Right, so the main brains of this is this by Blackmagic Design, which is a camera switcher. It's called an A10 Mini Extreme. Now you don't need the Extreme. This does 8 inputs, which means 8 HDMI inputs. You can also get a Mini, which is 4 inputs. You will be surprised though how quickly you use up inputs and the things that you want to do, and the price difference between this one and the smaller version isn't that much. So for some of you, it might be worth thinking about getting the bigger switcher, purely because you run out of inputs pretty quick when you start having these ideas of what you'd like to feed in, or maybe you have multiple Zoom laptops fed into it, or things like that. So you can really quickly use up 4. So this is 8 inputs. This is the A10 Mini Extreme, and there's a ton of buttons on here that essentially just do audio from each of the cameras. You can just press the buttons to do the different switching here. So we go into camera. This is Lorna's camera that she's running at the moment. I can go to my show cam, which is off at the moment. We go to my desk cam, or we can go to the video feed. So we can do all of that stuff just from hitting these buttons. Or you can program little things to take place on the Stream Deck, which I'll show you in a moment. But this is essentially where all of the cameras come in, and then you've got
an output that will go to this monitor over here, which you can see is the multi-view. So you can actually see what we're displaying on our program and what's on the preview mode, so that whoever's running the show can line up and make sure everything's working, making sure the audio is good and making sure that we're recording and we're streaming. This is all configurable. So all of the cameras go into the A10. Now the sound, you can actually use the audio from each camera into this, and that will be perfectly fine going through each HDMI channel. What we're doing is we're putting them all into the Rodecaster station, which is a podcast station which we use for the podcast. You don't have to have one of these. You can just, as I say, use the camera mics, or you can use a little audio interface or any little mixer really that will just put a line input into the A10. We're using this because we use it for multiple things. We've got some nice effects that we can play in here as well, which you should be able to hear right now. Or you can just use you know, a tiny little Zoom H6 or something like that, where you can just put a couple of mics in and then put the line into the A10. So that's essentially what we're doing. Instead of using the A10 mics, we're putting each of the mics in here, finding the levels, and then we've got the ability to kind of mute mics and bring on the mics and use faders on the mics that we want to turn up and down. And that's it. We're essentially just capturing the audio here. It's then sending all the audio into this A10, and then on the actual A10 Mini, it just looks like this. We're just picking up all audio that comes through any mic into the A10 interface. So this is a Stream Deck, and instead of having all the various different buttons that we want to press on the switcher or on the on the mics, or bringing on different video sources and things like that, and switching the screens around, we just want a central location to be able to do that, and that's where the Stream Deck comes in really, really handy. This is manufactured by Elgato. The link's below the video. And what we can do with this is, using a product called BitFocus Companion, which we showed you, which you can see here, you can program buttons that will display on the Stream Deck, and within that you can tell it to do certain things like macros. So you can tell it to do sequences and order of events just by pressing one button. So if I just press this button now, you can see that it will bring on a show ticker, which is essentially a transparent video that's playing from a video source. Now, what else can we do? We can bring on other images, such as a book club image that we've got here, or an image here that we've put a transparent background on, just to show that you can place images around the screen with a transparent background, so you can still have the video going and display images here. Another cool thing you can do is have picture-in-picture. So I can be on the screen here, just in the corner, whilst I'm doing this presentation, and you can see me and you can see what's going on around me. Or if you've got a logo that you want to put in, or you've got, you can also change cameras, so you can, as you saw us do earlier. Or you can do outros, so you can actually load videos like this. So we can actually have a video playing an outro, or an intro even. If you're waiting for your show to start or your event to start, you can just load these in by pressing a button. It will pull in that video from the video source, and it will play that into your program. So that's pretty cool. I want to talk to you about the actual how we made the animations in the Supersource, and how we make those things move around. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring in some Zoom guests, and I'll show you how you can take a regular Zoom guest and bring it into a production like this, just to make it seamlessly part of your production and how it will look much more professional. I'm doing a presentation to the camera, and I've got my camera here. So this is Lorna behind me. I can I'm now ready to do my presentation. I've also got my PowerPoint or my keynote up. So now what we're going to do is we're going to use a series of buttons and little macros here to make this look like this. So this is basically me now delivering a presentation where we can have tickers along the bottom. We can bring up the chat just like we had before. So we can do our presentation. We can, it looks a lot more professional. And also, if we want to bring in extra guests, we can. Or if we want to bring in a chat from social media, we can do that as well. or we can have the full screen, and we can just switch between these nice views that make it look very, very professional. And not only that, you're getting a full HD quality recording. So I don't know if you guys have ever tried to record in Zoom, but the recordings are a bit pixelated. Even if you use the HD settings, sometimes the recordings aren't that great. With this, you're getting an actual backup recording in 4K or 1080p or whatever your camera quality is, which is really, really useful, particularly if you're going to republish it or use it as evergreen content going forward. So these buttons here, you'll be able to see happen in real time. So as I'm pressing these buttons, what you'll see in real time is this actually changes shape. Okay, so this is actually happening in real time, and then what that looks like on the actual screen is like this and like this, or like this and like this. So you can do all these kind of cool transitions to make it look really, really professional at the touch of a button. You saw on the program where I was running a little video, so you can see the little video just below me that's playing around this. This is running off of an Apple TV, so we're using an Apple TV as one of the inputs. And you know, with Apple TV you can get screensavers or you can get video loops. We're just playing a video loop from the Apple TV that's playing as a background in our Supersource. So what we're going to do is set up a Zoom call, and then I'll show you how that works. So what we're going to do now is we're going to run a Zoom call, and we're going to have a production running just so it looks like this. And I'm going to be presenting the conference, and what we're going to do is we're going to bring in another caller into this square here via Zoom, so that we can then manipulate how they look on the production and how we can just bring them in as a guest, and then we can move them around, and we can do 4 guests, 3 guests, and I'll show you what that looks like. So we're going to go and set up a Zoom call now, and I'm going to use that Zoom call to bring in the guest and pin them into this middle this middle panel here. So let's do that. Okay, so now I'm running the production, I'm the host of the show. I'm now going to bring in a remote guest, which is Lorna, on the Zoom call. I'm just literally going to, so at the moment you're seeing this camera. All we're going to do is use these buttons to press the double guest button, and that is going to bring Lorna into the show. So let's see what that looks like. Okay, so here's me. Now I'm going to bring in a second guest, and there's Lorna on Zoom, and we can now manipulate her video feed so that we can bring in multiple guests. So we can have a third guest, and if we wanted to bring on the third guest, we could have that as a third guest at their house or in another location, and that could be on Zoom or it could be video feed. So you can tell that even though Lorna's on Zoom and I'm streaming directly into the ATEM, it just looks like she's part of the production. And obviously if they've got great camera quality and good lighting their end, you can use Zoom just to make your productions look so much better. And again, you can still use the tickers, and you can use all of the kind of things that we've been showing you already. So really, really powerful. Thanks, Lorna. So that's it. Let's talk a little bit about how you can make this really compact and really even remote. This is the Peli Air, which is the smallest case that has been purposely built so that you can fit it in an overhead luggage on a airplane. So this size, these dimensions are specifically built so that you can take it on an airplane with you in hand luggage. And everything that we've shown you so far, we've got a mobile version that is built inside this case. So we've got 4 HDMI inputs, which you can use for the cameras. You can always take the audio through those as well. 1 HDMI output if you want an external monitor, if you want a confidence monitor on the stage or something like that. Then we've got 4 XLR inputs, which means you can use the professional style microphones if you want to, that then go into the Zoom H6 inside the unit, which I'll show you, which is then routed into the A10 Mini. Got a power in, and then we've got Ethernet in and Ethernet out for network connections. So this is basically everything that we've just shown you in a compact mobile version that's ready to chuck on a plane, chuck in a car and go with you. We've got the Zoom H6, which is an audio interface, which is it has the ability to take 4 XLR inputs and give 1 line output into the A10 Mini, just as we was doing with the Rodecaster on the desk. We've then got 4 cameras coming in. You can see one of which is on the monitor here. We've got a small monitor that's able to monitor the program out and the multi-view like we showed you on the desk. And we're able to switch between the cameras using the buttons as we did on the other one. We've also got one of the inputs being taken up by a hyperdeck. This is a multimedia video input device which we had under the desk, which we didn't show you before, but we've got one of these under the desk, and this is what's streaming in all of the tickers, all of the videos, other than the video that we showed you on the Apple TV, but all of the other little animations and things like that are loading onto an SD card in here, and by triggering that button we'll play this device. So we use the Stream Deck to then tell this which media to play depending on what we want to display. And again, this is a small version of the Stream Deck where I'm able to run my show from. In fact, I took this to Portugal and I ran my whole show without anyone knowing any different, just by using this setup that's set up bespoke for my show. Everything's in the case. This is all you need. It's plug and play. You plug the cameras in the back and you plug the mics in the back if you're not using the camera mics, and you're good to go. So that's really it. Hopefully it's kind of, the purpose of this video wasn't to kind of take you through every single technicality of how to use every piece of software and every piece of kit, but it was really just to open your mind onto what's available and kind of the extent as what's out there to what possibilities you can bring into your live events, right? Hopefully you've sparked some ideas. And one thing I'll mention before we kind of round this off is there's a product by Elgato called the Cam Link. If you just want to take a high definition camera and put it into your Mac or your PC via HDMI, this will do that for you. So if you want to just upgrade your webcam from a normal webcam to a SLR camera, you know, a DSLR camera, and have real high quality on your webcam, you can do it with this. And I think these are about 150 quid or something like that, maybe £100. And you can find them in the link below. People watching this are now thinking like, there's so much stuff that I can do. What would you say, like, what would be good to focus on after watching this?
Quality first.
Yeah.
Then start to think about some basic production. How can you bring the people that are online and attending your hybrid events, how can you really bring them into the experience? Yeah. Start to think about how you're going to tell the story of your event. So it's not just you stood on a stage talking anymore. It's how do I feed that to some online people, and spend some time planning that out. And then get an extra pair of hands. Yeah. And I'm always going to say that, but get an extra pair of hands. Yeah, so look, we're going to be looking at taking these to hybrid. So although we've shown you predominantly online stuff at the moment, this is something we're going to take into our live event. So we're going to be running a workshop, a boot camp, a retreat, and people will be able to be there live. But we want to try and think about how we can bring that experience as close to as possible to the people that are watching remote and tuning in remotely, so that they feel like they're there, they feel like they're part of the production. You know, they can interact seamlessly, and they just feel like they're there as close as they can be, as much as the people that are actually there. And that's the beauty of having this technology that allows you to run these events in a way where it's elegant, it flows, it's a nice event to be part of, whether you're watching or actually you're the talent, you know, running the event. So that's really cool. The box that we just showed you that's remote, so you might be thinking, well, all this kit, you know, I need all this kit, it's going to cost me an arm and a leg. Lorna's team actually has access to these remote setups, and they come and run all the shows for you, right? Yeah, that's it. We obviously have a chat with you beforehand, see what you want, see what kit you've already got, and how we can weave that in. Yep. But essentially, anywhere in the world, we just rock up with one of those, plug it in, set it all up for you, and you can be presenting and recording, or presenting and streaming from anywhere in the world. So we mentioned before about hiring cameras, but actually you can hire the whole thing and do the whole event with that production quality. And what is it? Okay, that they just give them your logo and some video assets, or what we think about what your tickers. We preload any slides that you use as well into the hyperdeck, so that we can be switching in between those. We'll load up logos, social, anything that you want people to know about, get involved in. Yep. Documents, we can brand colours and stuff like that. Everything, we preload it all, so it literally is, by the time we actually get to on the day, I plug it and go. So we do the prep. Amazing. All ahead.
So I'm going to be going back out to Portugal quite a bit this year. I'm going to be running my live show from Portugal using that exact setup. Tune in next time and you'll see how that goes. You'll see that it looks just the same as it would be here, and it's really, really, really cool. So if you're interested in having an event or doing an event and leveling up, making it look, you know, a step above the rest to get more attention on you, more attention on your business, you definitely want to consider mapping that out, thinking about how that's going to be run, and then get in touch with Lorna or get some of this kit, and you'll be hitting the ground running and you'll be way ahead of your competitors. So hopefully you got value from that. If you've got any questions, fire them around this video in the chat or the comments below, and Lorna or myself will come back. We'll keep the conversation going and help all of you guys with your live events and your hybrid events. So that's it. Until next time, take care, have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you then.